Hey everybody, it is Derek and I am here for day two of Vlogoween. So one of the things I really have always enjoyed is horror movies. The genre of horror has always been my favorite genre. It's kind of a niche genre that you either kind of like it or you don't. There's usually not a ton of in between. If you really like horror, you tend to really like horror. And if you don't like it, you tend to shy away from it. Not always, but a lot of the time. So thinking about that, what I want to do today is actually talk about my favorite horror movies. And it was so hard of all the horror movies I've seen. Now, there's a few like mainstream horror movies I haven't seen, but I've kind of narrowed it down to 24 movies that I like. And a lot of these are like classics that you've probably seen or heard of. Some of them are a little bit lesser known, which hopefully will give you some food for thought of things that you might want to go see if you haven't seen it. So, kind of looking at those typical movies too, and I have a list in front of me here, and you can probably see The Thing is right up there. Very scary creature horror, very unexpected twists and turns in that. Kind of like the original Alien, but I like all of the aliens. Those two are definitely on my list as far as like creature horror. Kind of a newer one that's sort of similar to that would be It Follows. It Follows is kind of a different type of horror movie. It's a newer one, but I'd highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's about something that you don't exactly know what it is following this girl, and it's got a lot of interesting things in it as far as that goes. So as far as traditional movies, there's of course other traditional movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course, that's another one that I've always said is a really good shocker, scary type movie. Poltergeist, of course. If you've seen Poltergeist, you probably remember the first time you've seen it and kind of your reaction to it. Just kind of the whole haunting and all that type of stuff. And as far as a newer movie that kind of parallels a little bit to that, The Conjuring kind of does. The Conjuring was actually a movie that made me jump. I was sitting out on the porch alone one night watching it, and I closed the glass door, this porch door behind me. I don't ever do that, but it's hard to find a movie that freaks me out that way. The Conjuring is definitely one that absolutely did freak me out. And kind of another interesting movie along that same lines, The Babadook. The Babadook is another like psychological thriller with a female director too, of course, which you don't necessarily see that a lot in the world of horror, but brilliantly done. One of the best movies I've seen in quite some time as far as newer horror. And that's another one that you would probably like. So, what else is on there? Of course, Halloween. Can't forget about the Halloween series. Of course, the original being kind of the masterpiece, if you will. Scream is another one. Nightmare on Elm Street. Ones that you'd know are like pretty typical. Friday the 13th, of course, with Jason Voorhees. I did a video on that earlier this year, so obviously, maybe not obviously, but I do like those movies all a lot, the whole series. Dawn of the Dead, The Evil Dead, The Shining. Those are all ones that, of course, are kind of big on there. The Exorcist, of course, kind of one of the original like hit horror movies as well. And then Hellraiser, of course, Clive Barker came up with that. The book is actually pretty good too. The book is actually kind of almost more freaky because if you have an imagination, and a lot of these, some of them do have books, of course. So kind of going into the remainder of these are ones I guess that would be lesser known. Wolf Creek is one about this crazy guy in the Australian outback, and these people go on vacation in the Australian outback. That one I'd recommend. I think they've even made a TV series on that one with John Jarrett, who is the original actor from it. But that was another one that I really liked. It's kind of almost fatalistic. I would also say, kind of along that same vein, House of a Thousand Corpses. Freaky movie. Rob Zombie is a master of horror, in my opinion. He really has done a great job transitioning kind of from music to movies, and all of his movies. He's done 2 Halloween remakes. He's done 31 now, which is pretty decent as well. I wouldn't say that's in my top 24, but that Rob Zombie is kind of on the rise, if you will. So House of a Thousand Corpses, absolutely. That horror movie I actually saw in the theater, and I actually left the theater crying. I've never had that happen with any other horror movie ever. Um, The Hills Have Eyes, the remake, the newer version of that, very dark. That was another one that was almost uncomfortable to watch. I would say if you haven't seen that, the original Hills Have Eyes was okay, but it wasn't as good as the remake. The remake is just very, very dark. And I would say that's kind of the gist of why I would recommend that over the original, which is not common for me. And then another one that I saw recently is this movie called Christie, which is about this girl over break. She's staying at college, and these people come after her. It's a real interesting movie, but I really liked that one. It kept my attention throughout, which is always hard to have movies to do that with me. My attention span can be sometimes very short. And a couple others kind of to round out the list. 28 Days Later, a great newish zombie movie. Um, Faster moving zombies. That's the thing I liked about it because they always make them kind of slow and stupid. Not so in this one. And then two others you might be surprised about. Joyride, which of course Paul Walker was in, which is kind of sad, but that was a brilliantly done, lots of twists and turns, unexpected stuff type movie. So I would say Joyride is definitely one. If you haven't seen it, check it out. And then finally, Fallen, which has Denzel Washington battling this shape-shifting demon, if you will. So that's my list, my 24 top movies. And kind of when I say about the ones like Halloween and all that, really for me anyway, it's about the entire series. I love it, no matter how corny some of the movies get. I love Halloween. I love to watch horror movies. So hopefully this has given you some ideas about movies you may want to watch, or memories of movies you have watched that are really good. So give this a thumbs up if you like it, and keep watching Vlogoween. Another new video tomorrow. And in the comments too, just tell me what your favorite horror movies are. I'd be curious to know other horror movies that maybe I haven't heard of, or ones that you guys have liked, or maybe ones we have in common that we like. And I'll see you guys soon.